This is the YouTube edition of my book, A Course in Miracles Workbook Nuggets, which is a study aid for the course's workbook for students. I'll begin by reading my book's commentary on today's lesson over a visual of the book's text. I'll then return with some further thoughts on the lesson, which are only included in this YouTube edition of my book. Today's lesson is part of a 10-lesson group that runs from lesson 301 through lesson 310, each of which relates to the second coming as understood in the course. I'll be repeating this same introduction for each of lessons 301 through 310, so you can skip past this introduction in the future if you like. Timestamps taking you directly to today's Workbook Nuggets commentary and my further comments are provided in the description below. In the course, the second coming does not refer to the bodily return of Jesus. Rather, it is each and every one of us, all of humanity, finally remembering who and what we are in truth. It is all of us remembering that together we are the sonship, the one self we all share, the Christ. In the words of the introduction, which precedes these 10 lessons, the second coming is, quote, merely the correction of mistakes and the return of sanity. It is a part of the condition that restores the never lost and reestablishes what is forever and forever true, end quote. In other words, it is our collective realization that the separation from God never occurred and that we remain as God created us, as his one spiritual child in heaven. Today's lesson from my book and my further thoughts, which are only contained in this YouTube edition of the book, follow. A link to the book on Amazon.com is provided below. Lesson number 301, October 28. And God himself shall wipe away all tears. The first and final sentences of the prayer say it all. Quote, Father, unless I judge, I cannot weep. And, Father, I will not judge your world today. End quote. When you judge, that is, when you yearn for a person or the world to somehow behave or be other than it is, you are identifying with the perceived world. Think about it. When you are annoyed at an unthinking driver in front of you, you are totally focused on the perceived world. In fact, you are probably obsessing over it. But the perceived world is what we are learning to escape. That is the central purpose of the Course. Thus we pray, quote, Father, I will not judge your world today. The title of today's lesson is, And God himself shall wipe away all tears. There are a few key sentences in this lesson which explain how this is accomplished. Quote, Father, unless I judge, I cannot weep. Let me see your world instead of mine. And all the tears I shed will be forgotten, for their source is gone. We wept because we did not understand, but we have learned the world we saw was false, and we will look upon God's world today. End quote. This is telling us to see with the eyes of Christ and to look upon the reality that God created rather than the chaotic world, the illusion which we have made. It is telling you that when you see reality and remember that you remain as God created you, you awake at home in heaven. Thus will God have wiped away all tears.